Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special Prog Report podcast episode. If you've paid attention to podcasts over the years, every year we do another decade where we do an ultimate album. We've done the 70s, 80s, 90s episode, and now we're going to do the early 2000s, well, 2000 to 2009, the aughts or whatever you're supposed to call them. And, for a lot of us, this is our favorite decade, really. It may not be the prime era, but there's a lot of stuff here that I think we all really love, and for us was really important over the last few years, as far as music at least was for me. Bands like Dream Theater, Spock's Beard, Porcupine Tree. I don't know, a bunch of other ones all released amazing records during that time, and there's a ton of others. So Opeth and whatever else. So I'm sure we'll cover all those. We have a full cast here. We got Jeff, we got Prog Nick, we got Daniel, we got Victor, and John Fiala is joining us from St. Louis. So good to see you, my friend.
Good to be here.
Show off your is that your transatlantic baseball jersey? That's nice.
Yep, and my Neil Peart.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. John is our resident professional photographer, and we got to give him props because he just shot some Joe Satriani show pictures at a recent show, and Satch shared them on his socials. So props to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. Amazing pictures.
It's kind of cool that Steve Vai is going to be on tour soon, and John Petrucci. I'll be seeing them within a week of each other. So I've got the whole G3 from 2007, whatever that was.
We're watching G1, G2.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. So, and also, as you guys may know, he makes amazing mugs that we all have, which I think we've talked about many times. So. Anyway, we have to try and get this show in and out in about an hour. We're going to do our best, and we're going to try and make it quick. So, no rules. Ready? Pick whatever song you want to try and represent something from that decade. It's super impossible. We're going to start with Prog Nick. And why don't you kick us off, my friend, and how you want to do this?
Yeah, well, I think somebody wrote a book about this decade, right?
Yes.
Shameless plug.
Good cheat sheet. I don't know if it can be seen.
It's an invisible book.
Cheat sheet for the for the podcast.
There you go.
Well. I did reference it myself, actually.
All right, so buy it, everybody, and then you don't have to listen to this podcast at all. Okay, all right. Well, I mean, it was a great decade, naturally, and everybody kind of revived their interest in prog because of this particular decade, I think. And there were so many bands, Spock's Beard and Porcupine Tree. But I'm going to go a little bit lesser known for my first pick, which is one of my favorite bands of all time, Car Mechanic, which is led by the great Jonas Reingold, great Swedish bass player, also plays bass for Steve Hackett, as we probably all know. They did an album in 2003 called The Wheel of Life. And really, it was a declaration about what symphonic prog should sound like. And boy, was it back. And there's a particular song on there, I guess you would call it the epic on the album, which is the song When the Earth Meets the Sky.
Yeah,
it's got this
that is a great pick, my friend.
It's an amazing song. It's got this great sort of classical feel, this piano intro that sounds almost like it could have been written by Mozart or Bach, and then it goes to very progressive places, and then a little bit weird and off the wall with a sort of atmospheric bit in the middle, and then it all winds up in the end. So that's my first pick, Car Mechanic, When the Earth Meets the Sky.
Nice. Great album covered in the book, actually, as the Car Mechanic album, and that's a great song. I think I saw them play that live. Or a few of them play that live on Cruise to the Edge ones, right? In the late night. Is that? Am I remembering that right?
No, we never
Jonas
pulled it off.
A few guys. Huh?
Oh no. That was a song called Let In Hollywood. Yeah, I played that with Jonas.
I think it might have been a different one, but okay, great. Surprise pick, but a good one. All right, we're gonna go to Vic for the second pick.
I think it would have been a whole lot easier to come up with 18 albums list as opposed to 18 songs list. This was the decade where personally I was married, had a job, and this is when my CD collection boomed because, I had money to actually afford stuff as opposed to being a broke student for, most of the 90s. Um, Everybody knows that I'm the on the heavier end of the spectrum when it usually comes to making these picks, and this decade was the decade when Between the Buried and Me came onto the scene, and they had an incredible collection of albums during this decade. Very difficult to pick one song uh, from from their entire discography just in this decade alone. I decided to go with a very, very common song for them to open a lot of their on their tour. They would open with this particular song, and it's from the album Alaska, back in I think it was in 2006. Um, I may be off on that. I apologize, but the song is Selkie's "The Endless Obsession." It's This album had their current lineup, which became a lot proggier. They maintained their heavy stuff. There was some more, singing in the album, but there was still some growling vocals, still maintaining their intensity. And I remember hearing this song when it first came out and thinking to myself, these guys are stepping into a spectrum of prog that's really pushing it. It sounded the technicality of Dream Theater, but with the brutality of BT Bam. So I decided to go with this one. I'll have some honorable mentions later on
Yeah.
because these guys are awesome. So Selkie's The Endless Obsession.
Great choice. Yeah, that's a great song. I thought maybe something from Colors, but
That
but
it's
I actually sort of agree with you that that song by its own, like Colors, is maybe a better overall album, but it's hard to pick one song from that. And I think maybe Selkies is a good
when they
singular
record
choice.
an album and there's no break in the music because it's a true concept album, one song leading to another, leading to another. Correct. Hard to pick one from
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I'll mention some in the honorable mentions though.
All right. So, all right, cool. Yeah, they had to be in here. All right, Dan, what do you got?
So last time we did an ultimate progressive metal album,
Correct.
there
Yep.
was a very prominent omission from that list, which kind of became the bonus track. And it was entirely my fault because I picked Opeth first and someone else picked Opeth right after me. And
Correct.
so we kind of missed Pain of Salvation on that list.
Uh,
And to avoid that again, I'm starting with them. And this is the era of the band that I like the most. And in particular, Perfect Element and Remedy Lane. I think those are their greatest two albums, and a lot of people probably agree with me. They're fan favorites. Um, and I decided to go with the title track from Perfect Element, which is not the heaviest song, but I think it's a song that highlights a lot of their strengths from that time in their catalog. And it goes in a lot of places, but it's a very inspired song, and it goes symphonic and sometimes heavy. And it's interesting because Pain of Salvation is one of my favorite bands to watch live. Their performance is always a blast, and it's heavy and it's fun, and it's headbanging and jumping around, that kind of stuff. And this song in particular, when they play live, it sounds completely different, but in a good way. So it kind of two songs in one, and you have to either be a fan or have watched it live at least once to know what I'm talking about. But I promise you, it's great. Um, and yeah, man, like Pain of Salvation, Daniel Good and Low, they had an amazing output during this time, and
yeah.
I had to pick one song, and it was a mess to choose from. So I just decided to go with a long song that everyone loves and that I love as well. So that's
Yeah,
the perfect element.
I'm glad. It's cool because I think exactly the three of you have being on the podcast bring completely three different directions, and it's cool because I don't know if Pain of Salvation gets picked by any other of us. Not because we don't like them. It's just we know you love them, and
Yeah,
so
that's kind
that's
of our dynamic
yeah.
here. You don't need to. Yeah.
It's good. All right, so we've got Car Mechanic, BT Bam, and Pain of Salvation. All right, Jeff, your pick.
Interesting because I wonder, in choosing our songs, have we kind of deliberately avoided things that
We thought
we
we'd all
think
pick, yeah.
we would all pick? But I'm gonna stick to one that I would hope would be on the list, whatever way it turns out. Released in the very final month of the decade that we're talking about. Big Big Train and The Underfall Yard. And the title track from that album that came out right out at the end of the decade. And I suppose as an album, The Underfall Yard is something fantastic. 23-minute track about an engineering feat in Britain, which is kind of interesting in terms of its subject matter, but yet it's something that I guess transcends because musically, structurally, and vocally, it's just an incredible piece. It's a real journey that you get pulled along on. It's a fantastic song with, spotlights for all the key musicians, and includes, because I have to mention it because next here a guitar solo by Francis Dunnery. But of course, all the other fantastic Big Big Train musicians contributing to that, and I think certainly it's a track and an album that sort of cracked things open even further for Big Big Train as they went into the following decade.
And the first album with David Longdon on lead vocals, correct? And he just they just put out his solo album called Door One, which obviously has come out after he's no longer here, but we highly recommend that record. It's really great.
I think it was the first album with Nick DiVigilio too.
I think that too. Yeah, yeah.
Nick did play on some previous albums, but I think it's the first one with him the whole way through.
Yeah,
yeah.
As a member, yeah.
Yeah, and so I had that on my list. That was a great choice. All right, John.
All right.
What are you bringing?
I'm bringing something kind of from my growing up. Big band of mine is Kansas from my early days, and they had gotten kind of away from their style in the 80s and the 90s. But then in the year 2000, Kerry Livgren had kind of written all these songs that were perfect for Kansas. And so they got all the original members back together to record Somewhere to Elsewhere, which didn't really go very far, which I was very surprised about. There's a couple of really good classic Kerry songs in there, but the song that I really think kind of emulates the classic Kansas sound from that is Distant Vision.
Oh, wow. So, I thought you were going to go Icarus too.
That's what I was thinking people would think. But Distant Vision, if you haven't really played that recently, it's the longest song on the album. It's got the beautiful piano beginning that Kerry loves to write, and Steve's voice is good. Okay, it's not the classic Steve's voice, but he sounds good. It's Robbie's there. Robbie's got a part in the middle too to sing, like good old classic Kansas. So want to get that era kind of represented too, but it's still in the 2000s.
Nice. Yeah,
good choice.
That's great. Yeah. Underrated album for sure.
Absolutely.
I think the record label maybe went under or something shortly after, and just never got promoted. They still play Icarus 2 live occasionally, which is awesome. So yeah, nice pick. Wow. So okay, we went almost a whole round without a Neil Morse or Dream Theater song, but I'm going to change that now.
You told us all not to, so that's why we did.
Okay, so I'm going to go with one of those bands because I want to make sure that's covered, and I get to pick my choice for it. But I think the significance of this pick, I think it makes sense because it was the final album with Portnoy in Dream Theater, and certainly the next decade spawned all those other bands and a bunch of crazy just offshoots and albums with Neil and this and that and the other thing, and really just became a whole thing. But really one of my all-time favorite songs, if not maybe my favorite at this point, is Count of Tuscany from the Black Clouds and Silver Linings album. So last song on the album,
and that's Dream Theater.
What's that?
Is that Dream Theater?
And
Two
so
words.
yeah, a great song. Everything that Dream Theater does well. They played it on the last tour, and yeah, so I think it's a good pick. I mean, there's a million ways you could go with them during that decade. A lot of great stuff. Almost thought maybe something from 6 Degrees, but I thought because it's the last song on the last album with Mike, I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah, man, that's a good pick. I thought about picking Dream Theater, and if I were to, I would have picked that song too.
Oh,
And it's
really?
not my
Cool.
favorite from that decade, but I think it's one of the most prominent ones,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
Excellent.
love everything about it. Okay, so first round was pretty good. I like what we covered here. We're Car Mechanic, Between the Buried and Me, Pain of Salvation, Big Train, Kansas, and Dream Theater. Okay, cool. Nick, your second pick.
Alrighty. So my second, third, fourth, and fifth Dream Theater picks. No, just kidding. I'll keep the continuity going here with a bit of a different selection again, but I reserve the right to go more mainstream for my third one. And this was an album that was released in 2006, and when I came across it, it just immediately exploded my whole vision of what prog could sound like. And it turned out that, of course, these were extremely competent musicians, two of whom I'd never heard of, but the other two of whom came from the great band IQ, who were Andy Edwards and John Jowett. And the band I'm talking about that formed here in 2006 is Frost, and their debut album, Million Town, which to me stands up as one of the great, let alone neo-prog classics, I think just generally progressive rock classics of all time. And the song Million Town, the title track, which closes it is, for me, just about as epic as anything anyone has ever done. It's got a slightly different approach to it. It doesn't have the big sweeping marching ending. It kind of speeds up towards the end. It's a little bit different to what we had come to expect from neo-prog epics at that point, but wow, does it go everywhere. Ultimate musicianship, incredible composition, stellar performances all the way. So this one, in my opinion, definitely, although it's going to make the album very long, needs to be there.
Well, all of our albums are very long.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the few certainties in life, besides we all are gonna die eventually, is that Nick
and taxes,
yeah, is that Nick will pick Frost.
Yes.
So
this
we don't
was a
need
sure.
to.
I mean, if there was one pick we all
Yeah.
knew we could write down, it was that one.
Exactly. I went through
Sorry, boys. Sorry,
the
boys.
2000s. I
No
looked at Million
apologies.
Town and said, nice. Yeah, a lot of great songs. The title track has to be there. I don't need to talk about it. My man's got us covered.
Yeah, right on. I agree. I mean, listen, it deserves to be on here anyway, so it's great. We knew it was covered. Okay, Vic, your second pick.
Nick, that pick makes me really happy. I think, that's one of those where it's like, yeah, that's going to get picked. So the next band, not going to shock anybody. I'm picking Meshuggah. Again, this was a decade when their sound went more from a speed, technical metal sound. They started to go more into an obvious what became the subgenre of gent, which really took off towards the end of this decade. So again, the band is Meshuggah, and I was trying to figure out which song to pick. Several things that I try to do on things like this is when I've mentioned a song before, I try not to pick the same song again. So some people may, figure that I'll pick Bleed. It's already been picked before. I think the best song that I can pick for this particular context is going to be Rational Gaze from the album Nothing back in 2002. You really start to hear more of the groove in their sound, still heavy, but you hear the polyrhythms, you hear the odd time signatures, and it's a classic Meshuggah sound from this decade. So Rational Gaze is my second pick.
Nice.
All right, cool. Okay, I'm actually not familiar with that song, but I'll listen to it now.
Second track.
All right, Dan, your next pick.
Oh, it's me already. Okay. I wasn't ready, but okay. Let's see. It's hard, man, because I feel like we're halfway through and there's so much left unpicked, and but I'm going with Symphony X because it's also one of their prime decades, and they launched one of my favorite albums ever in this decade, which is called Five, much like Spock's Beard 5. Um, but instead, I'm going with The Odyssey, the title track,
Oh,
which is actually their most popular song. I mean, at least amongst fans. And it's a 24-minute journey, and it talks about the story of the Odyssey, and it goes everywhere. It's symphonic, it's heavy, and then it gets mellow, and it goes everywhere. It's really like watching a movie, and you see that it tells its story through the music, done extremely well by Michael Romeo doing the orchestrations and all that stuff. And I think when you think about the 2000s, there are a lot of long songs, a lot of bands doing, going over the top because that was kind of the theme. There was a lot of noodling and a lot, that kind of stuff was very prominent during that decade. But I think The Odyssey is one of those epic songs that it's like way up there in the list of the most popular or the most influential ones. I know there are a lot of active bands today that do stuff with orchestrated sounds, those synthetic instruments that are very much inspired by the work of the bands on this decade. And I think The Odyssey, Symphony X, Michael Romeo were key uh, influencers for this phenomenon of prog, let's say. And so, yeah, one of my favorite songs, not my favorite song by them. It's actually an unpopular opinion not to have this song as your favorite, but it's not mine. But I understand its importance, and I think it has to be here. So it's why I'm not picking a safe pick now. I think this one has to be here. So this is my pick.
yeah.
I was
Vic, I don't
very
think there's an
curious.
argument there for that one.
I was very curious to see where Dan would go with Symphony X because I know he's such a big fan, and depending which direction he would go. But
Yeah,
yeah,
this one is actually kind of easy because I never picked this one. And it was just
Right.
hanging there, like, okay. Right.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good choice. Another long song. So we got just this second round, two 25-minute songs already. All right, Jeff, your second pick.
I'm struggling where to go with this because I'm guessing that there's a lot of songs kicking around out there that are everybody in this group's favorite songs that they haven't picked.
Yeah, it's tough.
And so I'm kind of I'm gonna go with something different than that. And maybe save one of those for my last pick. But I wanted to keep the British factor up because we've got a lot of American guitar bands here. But there's a world outside there that isn't that. So I'm gonna throw in the Tangent and the title track from The Music That Died Alone.
Wow.
Which is one of my I that recently got a reissue on vinyl. I just had a chance to revisit that album. Another feature for Jonas Rangold and Roy Stolt is part of the lineup, and that along with Andy Tillison and Guy Manning and some other people who I can't just remember. And it's the thing that Andy sometimes does. It's a song about being someone who it's about prog. It's a prog rock song about prog rock. But I suppose the thing that's probably will add a bit of color to this kind of album or list or playlist is it's very, very, keyboard focused, heavy written, a very elaborate kind of intro, a jazzier style of playing as opposed to the world of gent, and an absolutely brilliant Roy Stolt guitar solo partway through it. And it's a song that I really like. So if you haven't heard it, it's one to put on this playlist and check it out. I think probably if you find it online, it appears as 4 separate tracks, but it is one piece.
Jeff, I cannot tell you how much I love you right now because this is a great album and song, and I agree it should be here. It's on my mental list of honorable mentions, and I mean,
Yeah.
like this album is so unique. I think it's one of those modern classics from our new millennium, right? Yeah, definitely. The Tangent. I came around to them like kind of late, um, and this is an album that I just got familiar with in the last, I don't know, couple of years, maybe a little bit more. But it really made a mark on me. I think it's a very strong showcase of that style of prog. And I know I usually kind of pick heavier stuff here, but I love that kind of stuff too. I love jazz. I love the brass instruments that they use. So it's stuff that it's really strong and well done.
Yeah. I mean, is it? I think for me, it's my favorite Tangent album. Really, um, it's really great, and I also did discover it until a few years ago. I mean, I hadn't. It wasn't a band on my radar back in the early 2000s when it came out. Um, but that's what makes this decade so hard. I mean, I didn't even
The
have that written
underdogs.
down, and it's a great pick. And it's like I don't know. There's so many bands I don't know where to go with the next pick. All right, John, what do you have?
I'm kind of in the same mindset. I'd hate for this whole 18 song thing to be put together and this one song not be put on here. I was really thinking somebody else would be picking this. I'm going also from an album called V or Five. Spock's Beard, mentioned it already. It's actually a few minutes longer than the Odyssey. The Great Nothing by Spock's Beard is just classic.
Thank you for picking that, so I don't have to.
It's your, yeah.
You saved me the trouble, John.
Yeah, I'm bringing you up for something else that you want to put on, so you're more than welcome. That was one of the first things that I put on the list. I go, no, I can't pick that because Nick's going to pick that. But
Which I did.
When they came and did that at Morse Fest in 2018, I believe, that
Yes.
was just a phenomenal thing. Nick and Neil singing together up front. It was just a special time, and I very much enjoyed the whole concept of what that song is about. And then it goes, I mean, the last 3 or 4 minutes where it really kicks in with the bass pedals, and that's just phenomenal prog song right there. It has to get in there. So you're welcome, Nick, and everybody. It's just absolutely wonderful.
I have said this many times before. First of all, the fact it took this long to get Neil Morse on this list was
Exactly.
pretty
I think
stressful.
impressive by us. Really.
So why didn't you pick him?
We are all waiting for one another.
That's just
All those
it.
people haven't picked him.
Well, so it's I've said this many times before, and that album is my favorite album of Spock's Beard, really significantly. End of the Day used to be my favorite Spock's Beard song until that performance on Morse Fest 18. I was sitting in between Roy and between Nick, and that being probably their top Spock's Beard song, to watch that performance live and just the emotion that was there, and just to soak in their experience and just sitting in between them, that performance made this song my favorite Spock's Beard song, and perfect for this list. Congratulations, my favorite pick so far.
It has to be right, John. It has to be right. I want you to know, John, that my first email address ever was "The Boy's Got Potential," and my second email address was "But there's Stuyvesant's and liquor on his breath."
I'm
quite a
pretty sure. You remember the original iPods that you could get stuff engraved on the back of them? I have an iPod that has one note "Timeless" engraved on the back of it somewhere.
That's pretty cool. That's
I think it's hilarious that it's Vic's favorite pick so far, so he prefers it to the ones he's chosen himself. It's my favorite Spock's Beard song as well, so I'm
You just
guilty.
figured someone's gonna pick it. I
I'm as
think we
guilty
all
as you.
were thinking.
I avoided it because I just assumed it would be Nick's number one pick.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it was.
I figured. All right, good. So you have some, come through with something else we left off. Wow, I'm up already. That does free me up a little bit to pick something different. since I did pick Dream Theater and we did cover Spock's Beard, I am gonna go a bit different to make sure we get this band represented. Because we often ignore this band when it comes to this kind of stuff, and it's IQ. I'm gonna go with Harvest of Souls from the Dark Matter album in 2004. Another long epic, 25 minutes or something, and just a great song, very in the Supper's Ready kind of vibe. It often got compared to that, honestly, and the structure of the song is very similar, with the opening being acoustic and then the big kind of epic closing at the end, and just a great a fantastic epic song that I always like to listen to every once in a while. It's a great album, my favorite IQ record as well, among a lot of great records, and they still put out some great stuff. So I don't know if that's a song a lot of you guys are familiar with, actually, but that shocks me. Nick knows that song. Come on.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So so IQ, Harvest of Souls. There you go. That's
Nice.
really off the beaten path for us, which is cool. So still a lot of big heavy hitters. This second round was Frost Milliontown, Meshuggah Rational Gaze, Symphony X Odyssey, Tangent Music That Died Alone, Spock's Beard Great Nothing, and IQ Harvest of Souls. It's a pretty diverse second round. All right, where are we going with the third? Nick, your last pick.
Oh man, okay, John really threw the cat amongst the pigeons there. Okay, I think what I'm going to have to do is go back to the other band that brought prog back for me, and actually did so before Spock's Beard. And I'm going to put Dream Theater back on this list. One of my favorite albums, Images and Words. But hang on, that's not in this decade.
No,
is
it's
it?
not.
No, it's not. Okay, right. Correction. So what I'm going to have to do now is go with the other great,
Please do go.
but nonetheless Neil Morse driven band, which is of course Transatlantic, and I've got to go to the Whirlwind. Just makes it into the decade in 2009, and I'm going to go with the song Rose Colored Glasses. I've picked it before in a couple of lists. It's just such a special song. It's got a very special place in my heart, and I know that song means a lot to a lot of people. Now you can see it as part of a bigger song called The Whirlwind, but it's not really. I think it stands alone. Could have been a single for that matter if edited downwards, and I just think it's one of the great prog songs of this decade. Rose Colored Glasses by Transatlantic.
How ironic is it that Transatlantic has one of the shortest songs on this list?
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm glad you covered Transatlantic, but I don't know.
I was
man.
expecting Stranger
not
in Your
cover
Soul.
Not pick Stranger in Your Soul, but I suppose we always pick that song, so I'll give it to you.
Yeah, got to be a bit different this time.
Yeah,
Stranger
why
in Your
did you-
Soul is on the list.
Why did you not pick the song that everybody else hasn't picked?
Because I know you're going to.
But well, we at least got Transatlantic on the list, and we got the Whirlwind on the list in a form. So that's perfect and fitting. Okay, Vic. Now, really, the board's very open. You got a lot of room.
I have.
It's hilarious that it's such a difficult decision. We're like,
I
our brains are
propose
frying.
if for the next one, maybe we should consider a slightly different format. Perhaps have like the obvious songs that we like, songs that we would all pick. So like 6 songs that we know have to be in there, and then we each pick our own, and it takes the pressure off.
Yeah, but you know what? That we think that would make sense, but the 6 songs we all would pick would not all be the same.
Yeah.
Well, but I guarantee you that this crew is vast enough where we can all pick songs and not include the ones that we all like together, because we all like together. But anyways,
do you want to push your pick and let someone else go first? Would that make it easier?
No, because I know that nobody's gonna pick these 2 that I have in mind. I'm just trying to think what would be best for this format. And one of them will have to be an honorable mention, or we're making good time. Maybe we can go another round. But
you're making good time, actually.
I think so. I'm gonna go quick because I think if we can go one more round, that'd be awesome. But
Not happening.
so with this, So with this pick, this is a band that started out in this decade, and they started out, it was mainly a heavy metal, almost thrash, really down tuning guitars, but they really found more of their progressive sound, and they got really into longer songs. They started doing concept albums. The band is Mastodon, and the album is Crack the Sky. So they just got this in 2009, and their opening track Oblivion is it's a prog epic, lots of metal, but they really start diverging into some jazzier elements, some very prog elements, odd time signatures, just telling a story in a song, which is typical prog. It's Crack the Sky is a great album, and this is the opening track. So I just went with a band that I thought not necessarily has gotten a lot of mentions in the past, but I think it fits into this format. It also fits into sort of the spectrum that I'm presenting here. So Mastodon, Oblivion from Crack the Sky.
Cool.
Really like that album. So great
Yep,
pick.
significant album in that decade. So good pick. Okay, Dan, your pick.
Man, it's like
I mean,
conundrum.
You got to go
Well-
one way. I don't see how you don't go a certain one way.
Well, you'd think that.
Because then they
and
may
I
not make it.
That's why let's go quick. Let's go another round.
That's the thing. You think Porcupine Tree would not make it?
No, I no. There's another
Yeah,
band.
because
Oh, no, there's
I
another
was
band.
leaning
Here we
I was
go.
leaning towards Porcupine Tree just because I'm scared you may disappoint
Don't
me,
be
but you
scared.
wouldn't.
Don't be
So I'm
scared
going
about that.
Opeth.
Don't be scared
I'm going
about that.
Opeth, of course. Is that the direction you thought I was going, Roy?
Opeth?
I thought you were going Opeth.
I thought
Yeah.
you'd go Opeth. Yeah.
Yeah, so not surprising at all. And you guys know Ghost Reveries is, to me, it's the Opeth album. So of course, I'm going one song from Blackwater Park, right? Their most influential album, like the one that kind of started their growth and all that. And I thought a lot about which song I was gonna pick. I thought about going Drapery Falls or maybe the title track. But I'm going with the song Bleak, which I think covers a lot of ground in that style. It represents the album very well. It has lots of like syncopated guitars, as you would expect, acoustic moments and mellow stuff, and a lot of clean vocals, a lot of growls. It has a perfect balance of their sound at that time. Steven Wilson also sang on that song, and he was the producer for that album, the first one that he was in with Opeth and Michael Wakerfeld. And he did an amazing job. It's still, to this day, one of the most sonically pleasing albums. And it's very delicate in its heaviness. And it's just a highlight of the decade. It may not be my favorite Opeth album, but it's, to a lot of people, with the Opeth album, right? And I think it needs to be talked about, right? So that's my pick, Opeth, Bleak. Also, one of the very first songs I listened to by them. So it kind of has like of this nostalgic, personal attachment to me as well.
No, great pick. Can't argue there.
Good job, Dan.
Important album. All right, Jeff, your third pick.
I'm down to sort of between two from my list.
Jeff is relieved that he doesn't have to worry about Opeth now.
Yeah. or Mastodon. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go. Sorry, I'm gonna sort of stand up for this side of the Atlantic, because I would never expect any of you guys to ever pick Radiohead, and I would never expect any of you guys to pick this band, who probably, in terms of popularity, were the most progressive band that certainly achieved a good level of commercial success in Europe. So I'm going to go with a track by Muse from Absolution. I'm going to go with Stockholm Syndrome.
If it's a great pick, and it's awesome that you're picking it.
Okay, cool. All right, John, your next pick.
Okay. This actually is a band I don't know too much about, but about 2 or 3 years ago, my brother sent me this track, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's 2005 album by Glass Hammer, The Inconsolable Secret. The
Yeah.
song I really fall in love with is Long and Long Ago, which they did a 2013 remix. So I'm hoping this still counts as the 2005, because I actually have not heard the 2005 version of it. But the 2013 remix has John Davison singing lead on, and it just I would love to have Yes on here, but the only album released in the 2000s is Magnification. Good album, but doesn't have any keyboards at all on it. And this sounds so much like Yes. The song is just phenomenal. So
Which album was that again?
The Inconsolable Secret.
Great album.
I have not, like I said, I don't know too much more about the band. I know that they're from Tennessee, so I know that they're kind of in the area here. And
Is John Davison on that one?
He's not on the original one, but
No.
he's on the remix.
They did a revamped sort of version of it, and he sang that song, but he doesn't sing the song on the original album, but it's still a song on the original album.
Yeah, that's why I'm counting it, even though I have not heard that original song.
Glass Hammer, all right. Hey,
Glass Hammer.
Go.
Yeah, I thought
also just released a new album.
Okay.
And it's also still going strong. Completely different sound too. They've changed their sound completely. All right, God, I have the last pick.
The last pick. Let's go another round. Come on. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Just absurd. Well, I mean, clearly I have to go with Radiohead, I guess. I mean, that's got to be the pick. No, I'm going to go Porcupine Tree. What song? Screw it. I'm going to go Arriving Somewhere But Not Here from Deadwing.
I will allow it.
Not my favorite album by them, but maybe my favorite song. So, Long Epic from that album. It has features that heavy kind of part in the middle, which is killer, that they started to go more into. I just love everything about that song, and it adds another long epic and would be a good closer for this thing. So I think, we can't have this decade without this band in there, without some Stephen Wilson. So, but I had a bunch of other stuff. I mean, should we do honorable mentions?
Absolutely.
Well, let me see. The third round was Transatlantic, Rose-Colored Glasses, Mastodon, Oblivion, Opeth Bleak, Muse, Stockholm Syndrome, Glass Hammer, Long and Long Ago, and Porcupine Tree, Arriving Somewhere But Not Here. I mean, this is pretty diverse. So
Ryan,
honorable mentions?
I was
what do
going
we have?
for Porcupine Tree as well, because I really wanted Anesthetized to be on this list. And yeah, I almost picked it, but I knew you wouldn't go Opeth. So what would you go instead?
So if you picked Porcupine Tree, no, I would have. If Opeth was not picked, I would have gone Opeth.
Oh yeah, what song? Just curious.
Probably Blackwater Park.
Oh yeah, track. Nice. Very heavy though. Yeah.
Yeah, because we couldn't do this list and not have them on here. So that would have been where I went. A significant band left off is Riverside.
Yeah, that's on my honorable mentions.
Which is kind of
that's because their best album came after the decade closed.
That is debatable.
I mean, Second Life Syndrome.
Opinions I like.
Yeah, but when we do the 2010s, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
I think they're on.
Danny and I will both have it on.
Yeah, exactly.
I also had
one
Carnival,
of us will cover it
on my short list, but I didn't expect them to be on here. Deer Hunter, something from the first 3 albums, but I like the other ones better later on, so you can expect them on the next podcast. I also had Peter Gabriel from his Up album, which was the last solo record he did in 2001, I think it came out. What else you guys have?
I just want to say that Jeff, you're good. You know why? Because Nick DiVigilio has what he calls Groovy Thursdays, which is kind of like a drummer's thing every Thursday, where he does a particular drum groove. And this past week, he did a song by Muse. And I got to tell you, I admit this openly, I've overlooked that band. I really didn't realize quite how proggy they were. So you're good.
If you listen to Dream Theater Octavarium,
Oh yeah,
there's
they
quite a
rip
few
off Muse
tracks
like
there
crazy.
that are very influenced by that.
Oh, Never Enough is the Muse.
Never Enough is Muse.
Is
yeah,
completely Muse. But Mike admitted that he was into the band at the time, but I mean that album is the best Muse album by a long shot. So, and it is very proggy. I would recommend that record to anybody.
So if we're going to make this currently quadruple album into a quintuple, I would like to see something from Snow on here, and it could be Solitary Soul, it could be Carrie. I would have said though probably the Overture, Made Alive Overture. It's got this hectic piece in it, which is in 13. It's a magnificently written piece of work, and so I'd like to see Snow represented on here, if only as a bonus track.
Yeah, like for my honorable mentions, we talked about Riverside already. Not sure what song I would pick because I thought I wouldn't have the room to do it. But also another band that we didn't pick anything from is the Flower Kings. And I'm glad Jeff picked The Tangent because we kind of represented it in some way. But one of their the most famous and well-liked songs is from the album For the Future in 2002. And it's, of course, The Truth Will Set You Free. So that's one. And another, like Neo solo stuff, it's his solo decade, right? Testimony, one question mark,
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I'm shocked that we left that off, but we did do Transatlantic and Spock's Beard, so.
Yeah, no, it's kind of well covered, but this would be my next two picks, right?
What song would you have done from Neil's solo from that decade, though?
That's a podcast on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Entrance.
California Nights.
Entrance it's probably out. Yeah.
I had Separated Man written down.
I had Author of Confusion and The Door. I can't believe Sola Scriptura hadn't been mentioned at all yet.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's a podcast on its own. That's a hard thing.
Well, we did a podcast on. We did a.
And it was already done, so you can go back and listen to it.
Exactly. We did that podcast with Mike.
Exactly. Now my honorable mentions. Again, I always mention our friend Cal Graves. I have to mention Fate's Warning. One of my favorite albums of theirs is Disconnected. Not very popular amongst Fate's Warning fans. It seems to be a lower ranked album, but the song still remains. That's an epic song. Over 60 minutes long. That gets an honorable mention to me. The other band that I was also down to pick, which is, this is one of those bands that barely makes our list, but there's such an obvious band that it's hard to pin down. But Tool, from Lateralis, I was going to pick Schism. Yeah. That's a song that
did pick them on our prog metal podcast, so
correct.
That's okay.
Correct.
Stinkfist, classic.
I think among our group we'd rather go Tangent and Frost and IQ than Tool, probably. But
I had Stranger in Your Soul. I had I'm Dying from Snow, which I know people either I'm Dying or I Will Go from Snow. And I'd also, because I've been listening to it the other night and realized Stephen Wilson, Insurgentes is just about makes it, and Harmony Korine.
Was that 09?
Yeah, I suppose the more kind of experimental side of prog.
Yeah, and then we didn't talk about Marillion either. So you had Brave, I think not Brave, Marbles.
Marbles.
Oh, but yeah, I know you don't love that album too much, but Marbles would have been, I think, probably the record from there. Cool.
So we
got it in under an hour too. That's pretty amazing.
I forgot one very important one, and I gotta mention it. Sorry, I know we're closing it now, but Sleeping in Traffic by Beardfish.
Ah, yes, I was gonna
One
mention them
amazing
for you,
song
yeah.
that um, I mean, I was just checking here if I forgot something, and I forgot that one. I mean, if we were to have like 6 rounds, I'm sure it was gonna be there. But it's a great song, one of my favorites. I love the band, and I've been listening to them a lot this past couple months, so it's gotta
There,
be on my mind.
there is a band that for me snuck into this decade, and I'll mention them now. Animals as Leaders.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
their most popular song, "CAFO," is from their first album, which at that time they weren't a band. It was, Tosin doing his thing with a drum machine that was programmed by Misha Mansour, who with Periphery hadn't kicked off yet until the next decade. So I was going to mention, Animals as Leaders with CAFO, because that's a quintessential gent metal song.
You're right.
Yep.
And if I hadn't picked The Great Nothing, my third choice would have been One with Everything by Styx off of Cyclorama. It's their first album without Dennis, and they have Todd Suckerman's drumming there is just phenomenal. So they really got back into that prog sound from the 70s with One with Everything. So that's a good one to put in there someplace.
Nice.
Cool.
That's a long bonus disc.
It is.
Well, this was good, guys. Glad we got this one in, and we did it in under an hour, which is pretty
Record
good.
time.
Yeah, awesome. And then we covered a lot of great stuff. It's a great decade, like we said. I mean, we covered so much, and we left off so much. So, pretty cool. All right. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, podcast networks. We're on Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that stuff.
Follow us on TikTok.
progport.com. We're on TikTok. We're everywhere. Yeah. Dan is gonna do a dance on our TikTok channel, so
Yeah.
keep an eye out for that.
I'm doing like Porcupine Tree. Oh, Beth.
All right, guys. All right, we'll see you soon, and we'll have our best of the year coming up soon with the whole group back in a little bit. So keep an eye out for that. Have a good one. See you later.
Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everybody.